So how does a company from a place like Turkey, an emerging market, suddenly become a global giant? We're going to break down the incredible story of Arçelik, an appliance maker that decided not to just compete, but to conquer. This is a fascinating look at how to use M&A to buy your way to the top of the world. But before you can understand their global ambition, you've got to understand the problem they were facing at home. It's a classic problem called the middle income trap. Basically, it's where a country's economy grows and then just stalls. For a company like Arçelik, this meant their home market was running out of steam. They had a choice, really. Go global or risk just fading away. And they didn't just go global, they exploded onto the scene. I mean, look at these numbers today. We're talking nearly $15 billion in revenue, 55,000 people operating in 57 countries. But here's the absolute key, the thing you have to get. None of this growth was organic. This wasn't about selling a few more washing machines each year. No, this was a calculated, aggressive, multi-billion-dollar shopping spree. So how in the world did they pull it off? Well, we've broken down their playbook into three distinct strategies. First, what we're calling the Silk Road play. Then, their really clever Asia-Pacific pivot. And finally, the absolute beast of a move they made in Europe. And after all that, we'll ask, what's the verdict? Okay, let's kick it off with their first big move, the Silk Road play. This was all about how to break into those super high-growth markets, the ones in Africa and Asia that are also, notoriously difficult to crack. The strategy here was so simple, it was brilliant. They asked themselves, why spend decades and a fortune trying to build our brand from zero? Instead, they just bought the local hero. They went out and acquired what are called national champions. These are beloved, trusted heritage brands that already own the market. In one move, they just leapfrogged the entire trust barrier that sinks most foreign companies. It's like buying your way to the front of the line. And they put some serious money where their mouth was. We're talking about buying Defy in South Africa for around $324 million. Then Dollens, the #1 player in Pakistan, for about $258 million. And even Singer in Bangladesh for $75 million. You see, they weren't just buying factories and logos. They were buying decades of brand loyalty baked right in. But that buy the local hero plan wasn't going to work everywhere. When it came to the ridiculously competitive Asia-Pacific market, they needed a whole new approach. This time, it wasn't about buying a local champ. It was about teaming up with a global one. So what they do? They formed a joint venture with a Japanese giant, Hitachi, and cleverly structured it so Arçelik got 60% of the operational control. Think about it. Trying to compete head-to-head with Japanese and Chinese brands on their home turf is a recipe for disaster. This partnership was a genius workaround. They got instant access to a premium brand, Hitachi, and all its incredible R&D, without taking on all the insane financial risk of a solo invasion. And just to be clear, this wasn't some small experiment. It was a $300 million commitment, a clear signal that they were dead serious about conquering the Asian market together. All right, on to the final piece of the puzzle, Europe. Now, Europe is a totally different ballgame. It's a mature, slow growth, completely saturated market. Here, the name of the game isn't growth. It's about survival and, well, pure dominance. And their move here was just breathtaking. They merged their entire European business with one of their biggest rivals, Whirlpool. This created a new behemoth called Beko Europe, with Arçelik owning a whopping 75%. The logic is cold and clear. If the pie isn't getting any bigger, the only way to win is to become the biggest, most efficient player at the table. This was all about scale, baby. And the prize for making such a massive, bold move? Oh, just over 200 million euros in cost savings. Every single year. That's the kind of financial firepower that lets you completely dominate a continent. So you've got the three-pronged attack, buying in the East, partnering in Asia, merging in the West. But after all that wheeling and dealing, did it actually work? Let's take a look at the results. Well, the numbers speak for themselves. Arçelik completely transformed its business. Look at this. They went from being a mostly domestic company to a global powerhouse where a massive 70% of their sales come from outside Turkey. They didn't just escape the middle-income trap, they blew the doors off it. And what they built is this incredibly powerful tiered brand portfolio. It's like they have a weapon for every fight. They can go after the mass market with Beko, they can compete in the premium space with Hitachi, and they still have those beloved local heritage brands like Defy and Dollens connecting with customers on a deeper level. It's just a masterfully built portfolio. And in Europe, that big, risky power move,
It paid off. The new Beko Europe is now the #1 player by volume in huge markets like the UK, France, Italy, and Poland. They merged their way right to the top. It's incredible.
This quote just perfectly captures their entire strategy, doesn't it? Arçelik made a bet. They decided their future was to be the consolidator of this whole industry. The game plan is crystal clear. Buy loyalty and trust in the fast-growing East and merge for pure, unstoppable scale in the slow-growth West. So that brings us to the big question, and this is really something to think about. The appliance industry is shrinking. Soon it's just going to be a handful of giants, a big five. In that kind of world, was this super aggressive M&A spree the only way to survive? Was it a brilliant move for long-term dominance? Or have they bitten off more than they can chew, exposing themselves to all kinds of risks in some pretty volatile markets? It's a huge gamble, and honestly, only time is going to tell if it truly pays off.